Ciao Gab.
Yo, yo. ¿Cómo?
Bien. How are you?
Okay, we're live on
Very
YouTube.
fine.
Like our YouTube screenshot here is a shot of your chair, Mick. It's pretty good.
Ah, that's nice.
Like it.
Quite often I'm the thumbnail or the video preview if you hover over it. And I should maybe get one of those circle lights.
Right.
There's actually a zoom setting to make yourself look better, right?
Oh, I'm sure. Is that a requirement of
Hey,
video chat
hey.
apps today?
Oh, wait.
Hey, look at that. Alessia's using it.
What's that?
He's looking good, yeah.
Mick was just talking about a filter that would make you.
Nah, this is just a lamp, not a filter.
But it was smoke.
Wait a sec. Actually, like I have a bunch of people texting me because they couldn't figure out the right link. So because everybody is kind of expecting to see that into the Eventbrite Zoom. So let's change that real quick. We have 24 people waiting. Are we recording already?
What Zoom? Yeah, we're on YouTube.
Gotcha.
Where are people waiting?
Well, someone text me on Twitter or Telegram, so let's see if we can send the email. I'm just gonna change the description of the event.
Yeah, just add it.
Hello,
So we
hello.
can have
How are
Red
you
Weather
guys?
reload. This should be pretty safe.
Yes, that's nice thing to see. Yeah, I think to some degree this was confusing. The drinking session after.
So right after a couple drinks, no one will care.
Yeah, Mariana was asking me. Let's see, should be able to join in a couple of minutes, so let's just give it a couple of minutes more. Hey Guido, hey Alex, Daryl, how are you guys doing?
Hi, how are you, Lucio? I'm fine.
Very good yourself.
Yeah. Just
Daryl, you guys are gonna be busy like listing a bunch of tokens on CoinGecko in the next future, right? Because of the BAL rewards.
Yeah, there's been quite a lot today, this past week,
Yeah, right?
basically.
Yeah, like now it's gonna become a thing, which I think is pretty good. Like I was actually chatting just before that. I'm pretty sure we're gonna see kind of pyramid scheme, kind of pyramid incentive scheme or something. And you can have like one token staked into another balancer pool, and then that one staked into another balancer pool, so you can kind of stake up.
For some reason, there's been something like that, but on Uniswap V2. So
Yeah.
ERC20 and Bitcoin free. Two complete shit coins, but with 35 million liquidity apparently.
I actually
Speaking of
like
tokens, I'm going to start sending out the POAPs now for everyone who joins.
Sure thing. Nice, we finally got pop again. But I'm gonna give it like a couple of more minutes, and that's it. Structure. I'm gonna give it also at here to the announcement channel. So did you guys participate to any other event for the DAO Rush Week? Or is it the only one?
Well, I was going to go to the metagame one, but I got confused by the timing listed on the events page. I thought it was 2 hours after our call.
I actually was there.
Yeah, I heard. I heard. Awesome.
It was pretty cool. I actually didn't really focus on the meta game until now, so was interesting to like. Yeah, like, and they have a bunch of different ideas. I really liked it, and yeah, I'm fascinated by this idea to kind of recreate a crypto economic system similar to the way MMORPG character function. Like, I think that's fascinating. I don't know if they're gonna make it for like, yeah, it's cool. Hey, Mariano, what's up? Good to see you.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Like, we just figured out, like, a bunch of people were a little bit confused about the double event. But yeah, I think hopefully it's gonna be fine. I'm just claiming my fantastic POAP token. We actually have 2 tonight. And as we all know, POAP token will eventually become more valuable than half of the Ethereum market cap. So make sure to get yours. Okay, let's see. All right, I think we can probably start. We are 10 minutes in. I'm gonna share my screen as usual. There you go. All right, guys. So let's start. My name is Alessio Del Monte. Today is June the 5th, and this is the 9th community call. Today is a special day since we have a double event. We are participating in the DAO Rush Week, so we're gonna have a follow-up event after this short community call to just hang out and drink, and you're gonna make like a little bit of a drinking game. I think it's gonna be fun. Well, let's start with the agenda. So usual warm-up and chatting. So we're gonna go through the USD++ version 2 proposal. If you guys have been following the forum so far, there was a previous proposal which has been kind of deprecated for a new one, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about it. I think we are pretty much at a point where we are happy with the results. So we want to kind of involve you guys in to see like how do you guys think about that. And then we are gonna speak about the upcoming DAO upgrade. Mick has been playing around with a few Aragon configuration and adding a few apps, like you may have seen that on Discord, but there are a few ideas on how to start moving forward into making decision making a little bit more agile for very specific reasons. And then the third one, last week, or I think we are maybe 2 weeks in, we started introducing the bounty program and welcoming some of the new contributors into the DAO, which is pretty great. And then it's going to talk a little bit about that and how the program works, like how it's going so far. As you might know already, we have like a development call every Tuesday at 12 UTC plus 2 time. So if you're a developer, obviously feel free to join. And obviously, guys, like we always coordinate on Discord, so feel free to join us on Discord or at forum.PieDAO.org. And then after that, it's beers and pie. So then is right now distributing this community called POAP token with this very nice design. And we are gonna have a second one, which is inspired by this by this graphic made by Decots. I actually don't see it here just yet. You're probably gonna see that on YouTube later, but thank you very much for providing the design. So the second POAP token, which is for the drinking game, is gonna be based on this design over here. Feel free to share it or screenshot it, it's pretty cool. I think, yeah, tokenizing it is nice. All right, so without further ado, because I think we are gonna have like a bunch of people joining for the follow-up event, I'm gonna start by speaking a little bit of the USD++ version 2 proposal. This is a meme like I was sharing some of the day for a talk, kind of end up in here. Okay, so for those who didn't read the proposal before, like what is USD++? The idea started as basically making a basket of stablecoin, which also function as a liquidity pool. This is similar to other pies that we've been making before, such as BTC++. And the reasoning behind that, well, it's pretty simple. we have seen that sometimes single stablecoin have a little bit of inefficiency in keeping the peg, which might be interesting if it's in the upside, but sometimes not super great. So we've seen some episodes in the past, particularly with some stablecoin, like SUSD was one of these, where the peg has been lost for more than 60%, so that's not ideal. And then obviously each one of the stablecoin have kind of different philosophies and different degrees of decentralization and securities. They're experimenting with different times. So it's kind of difficult to have like to kind of put all your eggs in one basket as usual, which might also make it somewhat risky in isolation. So if you recall the version 1, that was a very simple proposal, starting with an equal weight basket. The version 2 has been evolving as they're talking with a bunch of you guys and eventually exploring what people use stablecoins for and making a little bit more research. And eventually this led to understand that generally speaking, like you might say that for very short holding, the only thing that matters while using a stable coin, it's really liquidity, right? So if you are just swapping between one coin to another, if you're using DAI or if you're using USDT, it doesn't really matter that much. As a matter of fact, you might think about which stable coin do you want to use as a function of the pretty much the risk that you want to take about the single stable coin losing the peg and over time, right? So like for a very short time, that doesn't really matter that much. For a larger time, it actually matters more. So it turns out that kind of medium time frame is really the most critical section, if you want, where you want to have like a very high trust in the system that it's going to keep the peg and make sure that the stablecoin itself is as much resilient as possible. Now, the design between, for USD++ has really been thought in terms of how can we make a token which represents a cash position, which we can, hold for medium to long term confidently, right? And that's something very important for us, as we want to eventually use USD++ as cash position within other pies. So in order to make that, I've been trying, to work with a bunch of you to eventually come out with a model with a specific weight function, which tries to answer this question and to make sure that different people with different use cases might be comfortable in using this stuff. So the new weight function can be summarized with this three statement to some degree, which is the greater the peg, the greater the weight, the greater the trust minimization factor, the greater the weight, and the greater the market cap, the greater the weight. So the basic idea here is to really combine these three factors through a scoring system to come out with a final allocation which changes over time and that gets rebalanced in order to really get exposure to the best performing stablecoin out there, possibly while getting paid through the liquidity pool. Now you will find definitely more more information into the forum post. If you didn't check it out, I want to share it with you guys. Like you will find the entire reasoning. Where is it? Yeah. I'm gonna share it with all of you. So I will definitely suggest to kind of go through the entire reasoning over here. Like there's a little bit of analysis, but more in general, like if you end up to the end of the post, like you can actually find the model and the way it works. Some of the important things that you want to look at are really the scoring system, the way it works. So eventually, by interviewing a bunch of you, we figured out that there is an important balance between how much the trust minimization really counts into a stable coin and how much the market risk it's important. So, and by market risk, we are really thinking about how liquid a coin is, and what is the volume for that specific coin, how easy it is to get, and all this kind of stuff, and also the volatility by itself, right? So how much this coins basically is diverging from the price of $1. And you will find within the model like a different bunch of data in terms of how that happened. By the way, this data is coming from CoinGecko, so thanks you guys. Very handy way to to use your data. And generally speaking, once you plug all this data, then there is what we call this experimental scoring system, a scoring parameter, which I really hope in the future to become kind of an investigation tool for how do we think about specific allocation in pies. There are a few interesting ones. This section is specifically related to trust minimization. The way the scoring system works is pretty simple. The basic idea is, there are a number of statements. These statements have a max score. If the statement holds true for which one of the coin or for whatever the coin, then the points is assigned, right? So, for instance, we know that pretty much all these stable coins require at least a multisig, so they all get 1 point. But not all of these eventually require an on-chain governance vote to change stuff. So some of these don't get the point related to this specific factor. And you will find a number of these that basically end up in kind of derivating some trust minimization score that we use within this scoring system over here. Now, the other 2 factors is basically related to the market risk, as I was mentioning. Market risk, we actually find out that the model which the other guys came out, I think it's extremely well done. So you can learn it over here, where we're basically borrowing this model in order to measure market risk. So this is basically relaying pretty much those values. And eventually we have the last one, which is the divergence to the peg. Now the divergence to the peg, it all happens over here. The exact estimation of the divergence of the peg is done by basically doing a moving average of the price of a specific token within a time of 3 days. And the reason is, we understand that there is a little bit of volatility and there is a little bit of divergence from the specific price of $1, and that can be sometimes healthy. And unless it gets back within a reasonable amount of time, then it's all good. But if it's off peg for a very long time, then it starts to become dangerous. All these values eventually get plugged in over here, and if you jump into the model, you can see how the allocation basically react by either selecting or deselecting a specific coin. It's going to recalculate over here and change it. We are considering this 4 coin, USDC, DAI, TUSD, and SUSD as first. And eventually, these 3 factors are weighted within the final allocation from a volatility perspective, or actually divergence to the peg, we should call it, accounts for 50% of the final allocation. Trust minimization accounts for 20% of the final allocation, and market risk, or better, like absence of market risk, accounts for 30%. So eventually, these are the final allocation that you can find here. We have been deploying like a test pool just today to play around it. So we are pretty much at the point where, if we reach consensus on the weight function and on the reasoning behind it, we are pretty much ready to go. And in that regard, before we open it to question, I kind of want to add a couple of things. Why this is particularly interesting, and why you might consider to use this pool, like to basically hold your cash position, or to supply your stable coin compared to other pools. Well, you guys might have heard of Balancer. Obviously, if you are in this community, there are some key factors, in my opinion, which are extremely relevant. Really, the most important one is the fact that multi-op is about to be released, and the idea by multi-op is right now pools are not necessarily connected between each other, which means like if you want to trade, SBTC for DAI, and you need to have like an SBTC and DAI pool, which is not there. So you cannot directly source from BTC++, but this will change, I think, in a matter of like 1 week or 2. And by then, basically with multi-op, like very large pools will become extremely relevant. And then if we succeed in making USD++ like a very large pool, we might end up routing the vast majority of the trades within the balancer ecosystem, which is quite interesting. You guys know what pies are, and I'm kind of running out of time. It's very interesting because eventually it's not the only, actually the only incentives to do so. As you guys know, now there is a liquidity mining program, and both BTC++ and USD++ are eligible for BAL token rewards. There has been also a discussion about fees recently. Like I've been proposing the idea of basically going for 0 fees or very low fees. There are 2 main reasons for that. One is bootstrapping really, the liquidity or the swaps within the pool, which I think might even, to some degree, create a situation where USD++ trades at a premium. And the second one is by the fee factor pool of the balancer liquidity minting rewards, like we would get pretty much the best rewards possible. So you basically just, by taking a bunch of stable coin, sitting into USD++, you get a better exposure to cash position and, a more diversified exposure at least. And then you also get, free BAL token, which is pretty sweet. So yeah. That's it. I kind of want to open it up for questions so we can eventually jump on actually debating this. You guys there?
Yeah, well, I don't have any questions. I think it's great.
That's something. At least that's something.
How about the rest of you guys?
Fine,
Hey, Alex, what's up?
fine. It's I think it's quite reasonable and well worked. So I think it's a good option.
Awesome. Yeah, I actually think like, this is going to be quite a continuous process, right? Like improving the scoring system and, this idea of dynamic weight function will eventually require constant work, like, and kind of a, increasing involvement by the community, which I like. I think we are at a sufficient stage to roll out the pool, which is cool. Like, but I'm quite excited to see what the rebalancing will look like in a few months, for instance.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to have as you say, your cash position in this way, and it's very interesting and could work very good if you create a brand around.
Right. Any other comments? I'm kind of curious to see what Mariano, you obviously have like a huge experience with stablecoin, so I kind of want to know what you feel about that.
Yeah, I have experience, but mostly on the implementation side. This economics, like it eludes me a little bit. I had seen your first version of the forum post, and I thought it was interesting. I wonder, have you done any analysis without the events of March 12th?
Oh yeah, like you guys do great, like without the events of March 12th, I gotta say. And I think this is to some degree like the beauty of this model, because it kind of represents the current stage, right? And then if some tokens do better over time, they regain weight, if that makes sense. And which I think it's a fair representation of the market, which is really what I'm shooting for kind of a medium to long term exposure to cash, if that makes sense.
Do we use like a moving window for the keeping the pack? Like, do we use up to a year ago, or?
These models, like, it's based to quarterly. Like, it needs to be quarterly, right? Because otherwise, it doesn't really matter that much, I would say. If you go back like 1 year or 2 years, because eventually stuff like DAI evolves, right?
Yeah.
So you want to represent a reasonable amount of time. And yeah, we've also been kind of debating a lot what is the right number for the moving average. I feel like 3 days it's a fair number. Like you can move within the peg for a little bit for like a couple of days, but then you should keep back to the peg within a reasonable time. By the way, if you guys want to play with the model and try new parameters, like this is actually a very flexible model. So like you can just go here, go to 7, for instance, and then you see that numbers have been changing. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things I'm kind of interested in this whole conversation, since we have you, Mariano, is, as you guys start to bring more of the other stable coins that you get in as collateral for DAI, that I could almost see that as making an argument for increasing the weight of DAI, since it's already kind of partially backed by these other things. But it's kind of this really interesting thing where
the double exposure, right?
Yeah, we're creating like a double exposure almost, and DAI is almost becoming a meta stable coin at this level. Love to hear your thoughts. If any.
I think
turn off the recording first.
To Mariano, like
yeah.
Well, I don't expect the number of stable coins of DAI backed by stable coins to increase considerably. So if you go to daistats.com, you'll see that the number is very, very tiny right now. It's like 90% Ether, 7% WBTC. I think USDC, which is the largest one, is less than 1%. So I don't see that number increasing. Like yesterday, True USD was enabled, and then it was disabled automatically this morning because they performed a proxy upgrade, and we had protections against that. So I don't see it becoming a meta stable coin just yet. But I mean, anything can happen, right?
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, but I also think, like, to some degree, I'm very excited about experimentation in the stablecoin space. Like, and we've kind of been seeing a number of different solutions coming out to market about reflex bond, or some people are talking about it, and a few others. I think this is I find this model particularly interesting because it kind of you can get exposure to these new models and kind of supporting experimentation while having very controlled exposure, right? Because as long as the stable coin performs well, but it's not very liquid, then you're not exposed very much. And so I think it's kind of a fair way of holding different stable coin. I think it's very interesting. Before I pass the mic to Mick, talking about the DAO upgrade, I want to answer real quick Jeremy's question about how to participate in DAO. So generally speaking, like for now, DAO requests have been closed. Like we actually did open it only for the DAO Rush Week, encouraging people, because like there have been a bunch of people asking how to participate. There is another way we can actually participate into development. And that's something Dan is going to talk in a few minutes through the bounty program. But generally speaking, in participating in the new requests are welcome. I think until the end of the DAO Rush Week, which is at some point tomorrow or during night. So I'm gonna head over and send this link over here. You can check it out. So yep. Where is the? Oh, this thing moves too much. All right. There you go. So is there like another question in Q&A? I think that's it. All right, Mick, do you want to
Okay,
take it from here?
So I just want to pause you guys real quick. We've actually crossed over the time into the beer and pie event. So I think we should take a little bit of a pause on the community call as we have new people join us, just sort of turn this into a social event. So people are walking into a dry description of DAO mechanics, development bounty programs. But maybe what we could do is just chat briefly about it as we get the drinking game going, since you'll have to say hi a lot in order to talk about development.
That's good. I'm actually gonna grab my beer then.
Cool. All right. Well, welcome to the new folks who joined us. And we have 24 people who signed up on the beer event. So I think we're going to start to get some other folks coming through here. And I'm actually going to go ahead and disable the YouTube stream now. So if you're watching on YouTube and you want to join us, the Zoom link is posted on Twitter. It's so posted in our Discord channel. So check out PieDAO.org. You'll get a link to the Twitter and Discord, and you can send the Zoom link. Join us and start drinking. So I'm going to turn off the live.